Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to an episode of my F1 2018 career mode, episode number 90 today for the Monaco Grand Prix in Season 5. You guys did miss the previous episode then at the Spanish Grand Prix. Be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. To say the least, it was a rather interesting episode, so definitely go check that one out. I think there was also maybe a slight publishing issue with YouTube last night because I had to schedule it ahead of time, so I don't know about that, so some of you guys might have missed it in your sub box or not. But going into Monaco then, on the F1 2018 game, it's been quite a tough race actually for us, so maybe not the best place to actually come to after what happened at Spain. You know, we haven't actually exactly gone that well around Monaco so far on the game, but hopefully, you know, fifth time's the charm in Season 5, we can get a good result, try and bounce back from what was, yeah, pretty disappointing. Spoiler alert, obviously ended in disqualification in the end, but it was more likely just going to be all round a bad day anyway before that disqualification. So, yeah, hopefully we can bounce back, but going into this one then, Renault, McLaren, Red Bull and myself all plateau there, with Toro Rosso equally doing so all stays level, so potentially Renault and McLaren might be looking good again, but, you know, just like Catalonia, aero-dependent circuit, the Red Bulls, you would think they're going to go well, although, obviously, it's to do with more the drivers, so some of the AI drivers out there might be able to make a difference for their cars, and you never know. You know, we've had the likes of the Saubers, Toro Rossos on the podium before, so we might well, you know, get another kind of instance of that. We'll have to kind of see how it goes, obviously, in the race, but before we get to that, we have to do qualifying, which, of course, at Monaco is pretty much the most important qualifying session of the entire season, basically. You know, because it's pretty much guaranteed you're going to be hitting a lot of traffic around this race. It's difficult to overtake, even for me versus the AI, especially this year on this year's game. The AI are so good at defending around Monaco, and they made it a lot harder to actually open up spaces and try and, you know, get the jump on someone, you know, down the inside of Rascal, something like that. So, yeah, qualifying is going to be very important, and also for our race strategy, it's going to be important because we get through into Q2 then, and initially I wanted to try and see if we could qualify on the middle compounder tyre, the ultra soft tyres, because if we can pull off a one stop, that would be ideal to try and get track position and try and, well, basically go for the win in this Grand Prix. The one-stop's been the way to go. The one-stop's basically the way that a lot of these crazy results in Monaco in the past have happened, and so I feel like that's the way we should go, and I wanted to try and see if we could get into the top 10 on the Ultras. Pretty much what Ricciardo, who's the main championship leader, Ricciardo did that last season here in Season 4, and he was pretty much untouchable in the entire Grand Prix, so that's what I wanted to go for. Unfortunately, though, we did not have the outright pace to get through into Q3 on Ultras. Last minute in the session, I could see clearly I wasn't going to make it in. I was on the cusp of it in P10, and by the time I went out for my second lap, basically on hypersoft tyres, I'd already dropped out of the top 10. So very lucky that I went out anyway and decided to, you know, not risk it essentially. And so it was a bit of a shame. I wanted to try that, but at the same time, we do have a chance of stretching hypers and still making the one-stop work. It just might be a little bit slower because we'll have to go to the super softs maybe instead of the ultra soft tyres. But either way, the job at hand, of course, is just to get into the top 10 session now. We do that, and so we are into the top 10 shootout. Surprisingly, though, a big player out of Q2 was that championship leader, Dan Ricciardo. So after last episode, like I mentioned, you know, Ricciardo's been so consistent. He's been on every podium, every single race. He had third place in the first race, and then all second places until last episode where he won the Spanish Grand Prix. So he's been Mr. Consistency pretty much. He's been doing what I usually do in these career modes by being the man who always scores, you know, decent points. Might not win every single one, but he, you know, gets consistent points. That's pretty much what he's done. But here, that's a major blow for him and a major win for not only myself, but pretty much everyone, because it wasn't just me that he was miles ahead of in the championship in this very early stage. It was also the likes of Alonso, Hülkenberg, his teammate Verstappen, my teammate Vettel as well, Carlos Sainz, you know, all these guys, all of us. Is a big win to have him P15. It's been very difficult for him to get up from there, because he might now try one stop, yeah, but it's still, he's going to hit a lot of traffic just outright trying to get through that pack anyway, because he's not going to jump and get track position simply by going for a one stop from P15. He's going to have to do some overtaking. So historically, we know how difficult that is for the AI on AI around Monaco, so I think that's a real big win. So going into Q3 then, overcast conditions actually. It's going to rain at the very end of this session, so I went out straight away. You can see the kind of floodlights, or I don't know what it is, the weird lighting here at Monaco they've got in this year's game, which kind of has it kind of, they put out fake lights when it's kind of overcast here around Monaco. Very weird, but anyway, you can see it's clearly getting towards that. You know, you can kind of almost see the rain in the air. So we went for the early run. Actually ended up being a really nice lap time, I think, up into P3 with Sebastian Vettel as I crossed the line in P2. So it was a 1-2 for Ferrari at that point of the session. But then as we went back to the garage, we're down to P3 with Fernando Alonso being on pole position and Max Verstappen in second place. You can see now we're going through to the end of the session and no one is out because it's now actually raining. It's intermediate conditions. positions. You can see the pit lane is pretty much a ghost town there, so everyone's set their first lap time, and that's the only lap time everyone's going to get in this session pretty much. So good thing we went out early, and so we do get third place. Vettel qualifies down in P7 then in the end, so a lot of people improved as we went through after we finished our flying lap there. But you can see Verstappen has a grid penalty here for some sort of issue. I don't know what exactly, but he's got the penalty there, and so in second place he qualifies, but he'll be pushed back down, and so we are once again going to be on the front row of a Grand Prix alongside Fernando Alonso then in Season 5 here, obviously Baku being the other one, and that turned out to be a great race for us, obviously, so hopefully that's some good luck maybe, and kind of a good omen in fact. So let's go towards Sunday and see if it pans out the same way.
A proper road race, and in the true meaning of the word. That was how Mr. Monaco, the late great Graham Hill, once described this iconic event. The cars we drive have come a long way in the intervening half-century, but still we race on those same public roads beside the Mediterranean Sea. There's no victory more coveted than that of the Monaco Grand Prix. We're on the French Riviera once more this weekend at the 2-mile-long Circuit de Monaco. The cars climb around 40 metres up through Beau Rivage, onto the casino, and then descending down towards the harbour through Sector 2. It's a very short run from pole position to the first of the 19 corners here, 7 to the left and 11 to the right. There's one single DRS zone as well, so don't expect that to make overtaking any easier today. With me today, of course, is Anthony Davidson. Now, I want to ask you about Pierre Gasly. They've got that grid penalty to worry about, of course, which puts them on the back foot from the get-go.
It's unfortunate, but it happens to everyone at some point. You just have to accept your fate, knuckle down and get on with the business of making up that deficit during the Grand Prix. So they'll be pushing hard today. One to watch for sure.
We're almost ready to go then, and this is what the starting grid looks like for today's race. Fernando Alonso has a good view of turn 1 from his pole position slot, and the engineer completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid we have Van Dorn, Sainz, Nico Hülkenberg and Raikkonen, Verstappen, Magnussen, Grosjean and Brendan Hartley. Leclerc, Bottas, Marcus Ericsson and Ricciardo. Gasly, they've taken a grid penalty. Hamilton, Sergio Perez and Esteban Ocon. Stroll and Sergei Sirotkin rounds off the grid. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
Right, so here we are then on the front row of the Monaco Grand Prix in second place with no other car ahead of us apart from that safety car, Fernando Alonso, on our right-hand side. Once again, like Baku, so all the signs are here that we could go on to become the master of Monaco in Season 5. But first of all, we have to do the business in the race. Strategy-wise, and you can see initially the default was a 2-stop with 2 sets of hypers and 1 set of ultras. But you can see how ridiculously good the super softs are in a way of durability. And a lot like real life, basically, we'll play the stubborn game of going out longer than maybe ideal in the hypers and then switching to supers to make this 1-stop here. And it's going to be all about track position pretty much, but it's going to be crucial that if we can, overtaking Fernando Alonso here in the first stint would be way more ideal for us, because then we can actually try and control the pace and control the race. If we don't, knowing Alonso's AI, this could be a walkover race for him, so we'll have to see about that. But let's just get into this then and see how we shape up in this first stint, shall we? As we go to 5 red lights to the Monaco Grand Prix here in Season 5, the jewel in the Formula 1 calendar. 5 red lights are out and we're underway. It's a good start for Fernando Alonso, unfortunately for me. And into turn 1, I cover off Van Dorn instead. It looks like Carlos Sainz has gone around the outside of the Belgian man and makes it a Renault P3 there. Hülkenberg tucks in behind Van Dorn. It looks like they're obviously Verstappen pushed down to P7 with that grid penalty, but Alonso leads the way then, and so that was not the best start I could have had. You know, ideally I wanted to try and maybe overtake him on this opening lap probably, because you can already see he's already gaining a bit of a gap there. If you look at this kind of, you know, shot, really nice shot, the classic Monaco shot around the hairpin, he's already got a decent gap there. So Fernando Alonso flying at Monaco, but I say that around lap 6 in this first stint, nothing much going on really in this race, just both of us keeping pressure on each other. But on lap 6 I'm catching up to him actually, so I don't know if he's maybe saving ERS and fuel at this stage, because I was still pumping in hot lap and rich mode obviously, because I had enough fuel and ERS stored up here. The Ferrari car this season has been amazing for saving ERS, and so on lap 6 I was actually keeping very honest, but then by the time we get to lap 10 he got away from me basically again, so 4 laps difference. and he's back to kind of just being nowhere near me and just waltzing away. But you can see on the mini-map, I've done the same to Carlos Sainz, and Carlos Sainz equally has done that to what is P4, I think is then the Red Bull Max Verstappen then. I think Hockenheim's already made it a very early pit stop indeed, but yeah, me and Alonso for that most of that first stint, we're pretty much both of us in a league of our own in terms of compared to the rest of the grid. So that was kind of odd, but also kind of nice in a way, kind of harks back to how it was in Season 3 when both of us were in that papaya orange McLaren. But he's going to come in eventually on lap 11 then for a pit stop. We're going to continue on and take P1 and get the track position for now and see what we can do. He's gone on to another set of hyper soft tyres, so confirmation Alonso is doing a 2-stop, but the thing is he might have enough pace to pull off this 2-stop and still be ahead of me, so we'll have to see about that. But I know my game plan, stretching the hypers a little bit longer to, you know, if we can, maybe 2 more laps, and then we're going to come in for super soft tyres just to give ourselves a cushion of tyre at the end of this Grand Prix, because if I go way too early, even the super softs will not feel that great. So at the moment I still lead the way, but Alonso, unfortunately for me, did come out in second place pretty much, so that's how much of a gap me and Alonso got to the basically the entire grid in that first stint. That's how fast we were going. He's pit and he's got no traffic, unfortunately. That was kind of, you know, something I was hoping for. So behind him are the 2 Saubers who are yet to pit in this Grand Prix, the 2 Renaults, Red Bull, Verstappen, Vettel following through. You've got Ricciardo way down the order, still outside the top 10, although he's done well to get around, I think, P11 or P12, but he's stuck behind a Force India now. So I think Ricciardo is going to have a very tough order to actually get in the points, which is going to be very good news for me. You know, if we do go on to win this Grand Prix, that's 25 points in the bag, and that's going to really reduce that 30-odd, you know, whatever gap it was that he had after the Spanish Grand Prix. So we come in for our pit stop then eventually on lap 14, so we stretched those hyper soft tyres 3 more laps than Alonso did, but of course we go on to the set of super soft tyres and go on to the end of this Grand Prix. Alonso will be back ahead of us, and also at the same time the Renaults are also going to jump us here, because those last 3 laps, although good work to stretch those tyres, they were slower lap times, and so the Renaults have jumped us here with the undercut. But obviously all these guys are doing a 2-stop here, all of them on hypers. You've got Van Dorn coming up right behind me though, and he's really coming at the belter, and he's also on the 2-stop. We're not going to fight him too much. You'll get a bit of a bad deja vu flashback moment to Season 4. Remember, that exact same place was where Van Dorn spun me round 360 here at Monaco last season, so I had a very bad feeling about that, so I just lifted off and let him straight through, because I'm not in his race. He's going to fall behind me whatever happens here today, because he's going to make that pit stop eventually. We do keep him a little bit honest and pressurise him on lap 15 with DRS, but unfortunately I then come to realise that, yeah, the super softs may be great for tyre wear wise here around Monaco, but they are horrendous in terms of performance, and eventually I just lose touch of him. I'll lose sight of the Renaults on the mini-map even, and we haven't even a clue of where Alonso is. All I know is he's probably quite far ahead. So as we move on through this Grand Prix then, bit of a, you know, plain one for me then, because I'm just going to the end of the Grand Prix basically, and I'm hoping to just gain as many positions as I can with pit stops. So Van Dorn comes in, Hülkenberg comes in, Sainz at this stage stayed out for 1 more lap, and then the next lap Alonso and Sainz were both in. But like I said, Alonso, he had that much pace, and what did I say, you know, the alien-like performance of Alonso's AI in this year's game, I think, is kind of playing into this, is he had so much pace that he's going to pit for this second time, and he's going to be well ahead of me still by a good margin. He was about 10 seconds, I think, behind me before I made my pit stop, so you can see how much time we've lost in the kind of pit stop phase, but then just the natural pace he had on hypers versus my super softs meant I had no chance, and so we're in P2. We've got back past the Renaults. Verstappen actually has managed to jump the Renaults as well. Verstappen is also doing a 1-stop, but he's on ultra soft tyres. So the Red Bull team really are confident on their tyre wear there. I could have maybe gone to ultras. I definitely could have made it work, because we did make it work last season. If you remember, I had to pit very early in the Grand Prix, but at the end of that race I had so much bad tyre wear that I was under threat from people, and I didn't want that to happen really for like the last 10 laps or just having pressure from behind. So I thought we'd go for the safer option of super soft tyres, but Verstappen clearly, the Red Bull lot, go for a bit more of an aggressive 1-stop there, but he's done some great work to jump both Renaults with a 1-stop effectively, so he's done well there. But for me, my race pretty much now goes on to lockdown mode, and we just see this through to the end and bring the car home, as they say. But towards the end of the Grand Prix, this was I think on the 3rd last lap, Alonso going to lap some cars of Hamilton, and Hamilton goes real deep there and has a collision with Alonso. At this stage I saw yellow flags on the minimap, and I was praying for a safety car or that Alonso had actually got taken out, but little did I know, only after the race was over, looking back at the replay, Alonso just had a little bit of a scare, but I don't think he actually had any damage. I think Hamilton was the only car in that kerfuffle that actually got some damage off that. So Alonso, a very lucky man, because that could have almost been seen the race leader taken out by a lapped car. How quaint and kind of, fitting, really, in recent circumstances of the real-life F1. But there was some actually last-minute action there for me at the end of this Grand Prix with 2 laps to go, or 1.5 really. Verstappen right on my tail there. We're on hot lap mode, standard mixture though, because I didn't have too much fuel to play around with, and the fuel burn was so crazy around here. And Verstappen is really going for it. He's going to gun it down the inside. They go for a dive. I give him the room, and he hits the wall there and gets a lot of damage, but that could have been real nasty. He squeezed me towards the right, but that could have been so close to a crash, and my race wrecked with only 1.5 laps to go, because if Verstappen went any further on and hit me, that could have been a bit of a front wing damage or something like that. Or if he continued to plough on and didn't make the corner, that could have been even worse. In the end, it's going to be only basically self-inflicted damage there for Verstappen, because he now has to pit on towards the last lap of the Grand Prix, and so Sainz is going to get handed up and gifted 3rd place in this Grand Prix and get that Renault podium there. And so we'll look at a replay here and see what went on. So obviously, yeah, to be fair, Verstappen had such a good run on me. Big dive down the inside, but then look at this. He turns in prematurely in a way. I don't know what that was. I gave him so much room, and so that's why I was so confused at how he even managed to crash there in the moment. But I guess that's how it was. He just turned into the wall a bit too early there, a bit too eager with his apex pretty much. But there you have it then. Fernando Alonso wins the Monaco Grand Prix. We're yet to have success at Monaco on the F1 2018 game, surprisingly, compared to previous F1 games of the past, where Monaco has been the place where you can always win in career mode here. But we come in 2nd place, and that's me 18 good points there compared to my last race, which was obviously not that great. So I'll fully take that. 2nd place at Monaco. Good stuff here.
Good finish. You stepped up and achieved what we asked. Good job.
What a fantastic Grand Prix that was, and an excellent win for McLaren. Tell me, Ant, what was the key to this success?
I think a large part of the result comes down to temperament. They were able to keep their heads when everyone around them was losing theirs, and that's allowed them to get the best out of the car, to maximise the strategy, and to stay out of trouble.
And look at that, they're making their way out onto the podium now. Great race from the McLaren team, and I'm really happy to see them there on the top step of the podium.
So on the full race results, Daniel Ricciardo fails to score any points there, so that's going to be really great for me. 18 points straight on him. Obviously the same for the likes of Alonso, Carlos Sainz, Hockenheim get a decent amount of points on him as well. So in the Drivers' Championship, he still had such a big gap, so he's still 1st place, but the gap's now 14. But literally, that's how much of a gap he had. I've got 2nd, he's got no points, and I'm still 14 points behind, which is literally been a mile, basically, in the last 2 seasons of career mode. 14 points is like a huge amount compared to what the championships come down to of 2 and 3 points in the last 2 seasons there. So a lot of work still to do. Canada will be a very important episode next race with 2 upgrades. With the ultimate upgrade coming to our car, obviously on the drag reduction there. Renault jumped back ahead of Toro Rosso, because Toro Rosso had actually such a good Grand Prix at Spain, and Renault did not. That Toro Rosso, for a brief moment, were 4th place in the championship, but Renault solidified their place up there. Actually interesting to see that Mercedes are still so far down there, with Sauber doing some great work behind Toro Rosso in the standings. But we're going to go to an interview then, which should be a lot happier than any of the answers I could have given after the Spanish Grand Prix.
Amazing performance out there. You must be really happy.
Another podium. You must be getting used to it up there.
The team's obviously very expectant of good results. I'm going to say they expect it, and that's going to be a bit of a sportsmanship kind of answer there in the end.
You're beating all expectations. Would you say we all underestimated you?
The reputation with my own team at Ferrari has been going down recently, so I'm going to fight back a little bit and say, yeah, people are underestimating me.
Things were close between you and your rival, but it looks like you're coming up top, doesn't it?
No major qualms with Sebastian Vettel this season, really. It's been some good fighting, a little bit hairy at Baku, but, good respect for Sebastian, so just going to say, yeah, the rivalry makes things better, hopefully.
You left a lot of paint on the walls today. Were you struggling for grip, or did you just misjudge some corners?
And then the Swift no comment to this one. No point answering these kind of questions.
Appreciate your time.
And so we go to the end of the episode. Then we actually have to choose a rival there. So I'm going to end up actually choosing Dan Ricciardo in the end of it, seeing as he is the main man in the championship at the moment there. But at the moment, we got the lead on the rivalry with Sebastian Vettel. Obviously, he beat us on the last rivalry. So hopefully, you know, if we can beat him in this next one, we can get back in Ferrari's good books. But really baffling, despite getting second place now, beating Vettel by a fair bit and being the best of the rest, because Alonso is in a world of his own, we still get a rep decrease. So, yeah, Ferrari, it's a bit of a toxic relationship, to be honest. It's almost like, you know, not being appreciated by your significant other in a way, even though you're doing everything right. So there you have it. Ferrari's still not happy with me. They're very demanding. Towards the end of this episode then, we've got enough points that I wanted to purchase 2 minor downforce upgrades, the front and the rear. You can see on either side of the tree. Unfortunately though, because of my contract, I can only do 2 simultaneous updates. So I ended up just only being able to do the front downforce, but that will mean we still have 2 upgrades then for Canada. Will be the ultimate drag reduction and the minor front downforce, and so both of those should help around Canada. So looking forward to that. Obviously one of my favourite Grand Prix on the calendar, so let's hope we can try and turn this P2 one better and go to P1 at the Canadian Grand Prix, but we'll have to see about that tomorrow. So guys, if you did enjoy this one though, be sure to smash the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, do get subscribed for weekly full-on content. I've been aarava. Hope you enjoy the rest of the day. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.